This might be the greatest music royalty ripoff in history, a story where the biggest star in the world was trapped by the one man who promised to make him a legend. Elvis Presley's manager took up to 50% of his earnings, while most managers took 10 to 15%. But the money was just the beginning. What happened behind the scenes would reshape artist contracts forever and leave the king of rock and roll creatively imprisoned in Las Vegas until his death. By 1956, Elvis Presley had become a recording star, the most famous face in America. Screaming crowds, chart-topping records, a cultural phenomenon unlike anything the world had ever seen. But behind the glitter and the gold records, someone else was calling the shots. His name was Colonel Tom Parker, and he wasn't a colonel at all. Colonel Thomas Andrew Parker was born Andreas Cornelis van Kuyk in the Netherlands and entered the United States illegally when he was 20 years old. He adopted a new name, created a fake backstory, and spent decades hiding his true identity. Parker worked with traveling carnivals and later got into music promotion, receiving the honorary title of Colonel in 1948 from the governor of Louisiana. He understood one thing better than anyone: how to sell an attraction. In early 1955, Parker heard about Elvis Presley and became interested in the future of this musical sound. By August, Parker had acquired a controlling interest in Presley's management contract, and 2 months later negotiated a deal for RCA to purchase Presley's contract from Sun Records for the unheard-of sum of $35,000. On March 26, 1956, 21-year-old Elvis Presley signed a contract making Parker his sole and exclusive advisor, personal representative, and manager. The contract entitled Parker to a commission of 25% of Elvis's gross income. That was already high for the industry, but it wouldn't stay at 25% for long. By the mid-1960s, Parker was taking up to 50% of the singer's earnings, whereas most managers took 10 to 15%. 50%, not 10, not 15, not even 20. Half of everything Elvis earned went straight to Colonel Parker, and Parker had a justification ready.
My deal was not 50% of the profit. My deal was 50% of work I created where he did not have to perform. And we had a partnership. But on the motion pictures, the hotel, and the music business, 25%, never no more.
Parker claimed he earned it, that he worked harder than anyone, that Elvis would be nothing without him. But the reality was far darker. Parker was an illegal immigrant who lacked a passport and never became a naturalized U.S. citizen, which prevented Elvis from touring internationally. Despite being a global superstar, Elvis Presley only toured outside the U.S. 3 times, all in 1957 and all in Canada. Parker did not accompany him. According to Jerry Schilling, a member of Elvis's inner circle, when Elvis tried to arrange international tours, no one would work with him because they were afraid of crossing the Colonel. One infamous moment revealed just how trapped Elvis was. At a 1969 press conference in Las Vegas, someone offered Elvis £1 million to perform at Wembley Stadium in England. Elvis looked excited. Parker looked terrified. The offer was quietly declined. Elvis would never perform outside North America again. Instead, Parker locked him into something else entirely.
The genius of Colonel Tom Parker cannot be overstated, but it is all washed away, I think, from the great legacy of the late 60s and 70s in which the Colonel was wrong. Look, he never advised Elvis.
Yeah.
He never said, I think you should do music like this. I think you should perform like this. What he was is very possessive. He wasn't about to, let go of the great elephant attraction that he had. If you want to be the richest guy in the carnival, own an elephant, because everybody pays 25 cents to see the elephant. And they'll also pay another 10 cents for 2 cents worth of peanuts in order to feed the elephant. And that's what it was.
Between 1969 and his death in 1977, Elvis performed over 600 shows at the Las Vegas Hilton. The same stage, the same city, year after year after year. Parker kept Presley performing nonstop in Vegas to pay off his gambling debts, which ballooned to $30 million at the Hilton alone by 1977. Elvis wasn't just a client, he was collateral. By the 1970s, the strain was showing. Elvis's health deteriorated as he became dependent on prescription drugs to keep him going on stage and put him to sleep at night. The rhinestone jumpsuits grew tighter, the performances grew harder, and still, Parker pushed him to do more. Then, in 1973, Parker made a move that would later be used as evidence of his betrayal. He sold Elvis's entire back catalog to RCA for $5.4 million, a gross undervaluation for one of the most substantial catalogs in music history. Parker received $6.2 million over 7 years. Elvis received $4.6 million. After taxes, Elvis saw about $2 million. Parker's deal meant that Elvis's estate would receive no royalties on any of his songs recorded prior to 1973. And when a reporter once asked Parker if it was true that he took 50% of everything Elvis earned, Parker responded, "That's not true at all. He takes 50% of everything I earn." It was a joke, but it was also the truth.
All I know is I sleep very good at night.
On August 16, 1977, Elvis Presley died at the age of 42. When Parker heard the news, his first words were, "This won't change anything." And in a sense, he was right. He immediately flew to Memphis and convinced Elvis's grieving father, Vernon, to sign a new contract, reaffirming Parker's 50% share of the estate's income. But in 1979, Vernon Presley died, and someone finally looked at the numbers. A probate judge discovered Parker was receiving a staggering 50% of Elvis's posthumous earnings and estimated that Parker had defrauded the estate of more than $7 million in just the 3 previous years. In September 1980, attorney Blanchard Toole issued a 300-page report revealing Parker's 50-50 contract and finding that his commission was extortionate compared to the industry standard of 10 to 15%. In 1982, the Presley estate sued Parker for mismanagement. The case was settled out of court in 1983, with the estate paying Parker $2 million in exchange for all Elvis-related materials and the termination of his involvement. Parker lived quietly in Las Vegas until his death in 1997. After a lifetime of earning well over $100 million managing Elvis, the Colonel's estate was barely worth $1 million upon his death. He'd gambled it all away. Elvis Presley's story didn't end with his death, or even with Parker's. It became a cautionary tale that echoes through the music industry to this day. While artists like Prince, the Beatles, Janet Jackson, and Def Leppard had dealt with similar issues of master ownership and contract disputes for decades, few made it as public as Taylor Swift did in 2019. When Swift's masters were sold without her consent, she brought the issue of artist ownership into the mainstream, and publications described it as one of the 50 most important moments of the 2010s. Today, attorneys report that music contracts increasingly include licenses where there's ownership on both sides, and master recordings often revert back to musicians after a period of time, a significant change from the past. Elvis never got that chance. The most notable mismanagement, facilitated by companies like RCA, the International Hotel in Las Vegas, and William Morris Agency, allowed Parker's conflicts of interest to go unchecked. And so the king of rock and roll spent his final years trapped on a Las Vegas stage performing 2 shows a night, 7 days a week, all while his manager sat in the casino placing bets with Elvis's money. In the end, Elvis Presley didn't lose his crown. He sold it, piece by piece, to the man who held the contract. And Colonel Tom Parker, he slept very good at night.